Am I on? Hey, hi internet. Jason here, State of Love and Trust. How's it going? We're live on YouTube and I think Facebook. Who knows? Mark Zuckerberg's probably doing something weird in the background because I disparaged him online. But that's okay. We're here now anyways. And with me, as always, the man with the plan, wearing red today.
Wearing Pearl Jam red. How about that?
Pearl Jam red. You love to see it. Paul, how are you doing on there?
I'm doing very well. Feeling good.
Yes.
Feeling good.
Good. We've got a lot to get to today. A lot
Sure
of stuff happening in real life. And obviously we'll get to the goods, get to the 30th anniversary. We've got a couple guests to bring in, and then we'll kind of go through some news and notes here, and we'll get after it. So first off, you guys know him from Pearl Jam Radio, the DJ, the Rob Bleetstein.
Formerly known as. Hey there. Good to see you guys.
Great
Welcome.
to see you, Zoe's Rob.
Hey there.
And also another returning champion. Rob, this is your second time. This next guest, it's his third time. I think it's the only person who's been here 3 times.
Wow.
Brett Eliason back in the house.
All lies.
Oh, he's only here so he doesn't get fined.
I'm sending my parting gift to Brett.
Welcome all of you and whoever's watching on the internet. Thanks for being here. I'm going to try and get to as many comments as I can. Please do get involved. Get in the top chat. Send us your comments. Who's coming in here? What do we got? Hello, everyone. Hey, Lenny Prado from Black Circle is in the chat right now. We might see and hear from his band later on. Wink. So a couple of news and notes I want to get to first, gents, before we dive into this show. As we all know out there, this show was delayed a handful of days because of some Mother Nature shit here in Southern California. I had no power on Tuesday because of literally hurricane-force winds, which made fires happen. And a couple of them are still raging, but we're getting some containment starting to happen. The winds have been a little bit favorable. So, and luckily, I am safe, although we know plenty of people who are not. Their belongings and their livelihoods and their homes are gone, and it's a rebuild for them. So I want to just first point out something. We've got links to all of these things in the description of the video down below. By the way, if you didn't know we were live, now you do. There's a little live bug. And so please go ahead and go to any of these links, American Red Cross, World Central Kitchen, and the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation. These are all ways that you can help. Some of the ways that you can help. And, we've got a friend of the show as well, who, her name is Anita. She runs the 90 Original brand. I'm actually wearing it right now, the hoodie. And she lives in the Palisades, and her home has gone. And with it is the entire stock of 90, and which is super tragic. And obviously all of it's tragic, but she's a friend of ours. She's a friend of the community. And, we always do a monthly fundraiser, Paul, right?
We sure do.
So this month it's a fundraiser. It's a nonprofit called Our Rescue, and then they help with sex and human trafficking and ending that. And we said, usually we have a carrot, say, hey, if you donate the most money, you'll get some prize. It's a poster, it's a vinyl, it's whatever. We're going to give you, this time around, a 90 Original shirt and a patch, because we need to help her get back on her feet, and we need to help Our Rescue. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. So if you are feeling inclined, please go ahead and scan that QR code with your phone and send the donation. Anything will work, but the biggest one will get some 90s swag from Anita, because she needs to get back on her feet, and it's a great brand. So go ahead and scan that. And actually, I'm going to leave this little bug in the corner. So if you want to go ahead and scan that at any point during the broadcast, and over there we go, up in the corner. Paul's pointing to it. And that would be amazing. Again, links are all down below. And I think that's all of the news notes I wanted to get going. Any thoughts from you guys about what's happening? And it's crazy.
It's just devastating, and we've had those up in Northern California, but this is like the Santa Rosa and Paradise fires and Lahaina times
Yeah.
500. It's just so brutal. And I wasn't really aware that there's so many, this whole musician and artist community in Altadena that is just gone. And I'll put it on my thing again. There's been a spreadsheet going around of a lot of artists and stuff and GoFundMe's for them. So I posted that the other day. I'll do it again. It's probably updated as well.
Awesome.
Appreciate that, Rob. I certainly have something on my mind when it comes to that, but I would love to hear from you, Brett, if you had something that you wanted to say on the matter first.
It's just sad. I know, as everyone, well, in this room anyway, does, a lot of people down there. Fortunately, those closest to me haven't seen full devastation, but a lady I know pretty well from many years back, she was literally all the homes around her. It didn't hit her home, but everything right up to her home is just gone. And she was posting video of it. I mean, it looks like an apocalypse disaster movie. It is so terrible. And I've got it would be like to have to run from your home and have it just go to ash. That's just awful.
Yeah, I've got a friend in the Palisades too, where his house and the two next to him are there. The entire rest of the block is gone, but your house is you can't move back in. I mean, everything is.
And what's wild about that?
Everything's toxic. Everything in your house is
survivor's
toxic
guilt too.
Yeah, and everything in your house is toxic. Probably won't be power there for another year anyway. But it's just so awful.
No, and that's a good point. When we start thinking about the aftermath of this and just how absurdly is the wrong word, but how painfully slow this entire process is going to be. From power lines, talking about gas, environmental remediation. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of people
the
who have been displaced.
It's
massive. The demand for rentals is going to go up. You're going to see that go up. I mean, you're going to have obviously the school districts that are adjacent to those areas. Those are going to get overrun at this point. It's going to be really difficult and challenging for everybody involved in that regard. I mean, if you lost your car, you lost your furniture, you go to buy that. I mean, those are going to be overrun with people. Good luck finding stuff there. You're going to have pets all over the place who have been displaced. A lot of these older houses, if you bought a house, especially in LA, I mean, there's a lot of these houses that weren't necessarily built to today's code, right? So now, because of that, all of those homes, when you try to rebuild them, they're not going to pass because the specs are not going to be the same anymore. So, and then obviously they're going to find ways to have special rules applied and whatnot. And when that happens, all the adjacent areas there's going to be a bunch of people that are crying foul for good reason, I think. And that don't even get me started on the insurance battles, whatever companies have decided to stay in this state. It's just, the whole thing is just a mess. And so I don't know.
On a note,
and the people have not stopped, people have not stopped themselves from already shifting to the blame game, and because everyone wants to know why, how could this happen? Why would this happen? And there's a time and a place for that. I don't know that we're there quite yet because people are still hurting, but
things are still burning.
Things are still honestly, as we are live, Eaton Fire, which is decimated Altadena and Pasadena area in those foothills, that's 27%, I want to say, but Palisades is only 11%, and it's creeping west. I think we've gotten some luck with some of the winds over the last 24 hours that they predicted worse, and it hasn't been that bad. But I will say this. I have been so impressed by the first responders and these pilots of these aircraft and these helicopters. It is absolutely insane how good they are at navigating all that terrain and the coordination with all of them in the air at the same time and hitting their spots with the retardant in the water. It's unbelievable.
I wanted to shout out to those that are coming from Canada and from Mexico, Washington, my area, even our local fire department sent people down there. It's just that kind of response is amazing.
And why does Canada have these scoopers that can take up the ocean water and we don't? That makes no sense.
That's a great question, Rob. I don't know. Here's one thing though: if you see those, don't fly your drone so that the plane flies into it and ruins the wing.
I can't believe that too. I read that. I was like,
Anywho, I just wanted to address that because it's the elephant in the room and it's still happening. But for many of you out there, this is not directly affecting you, and we promised you a show, and it takes our minds off of it for about an hour or so. So let's do it. Let's celebrate something that happened a little over 30 years ago now. I was ready to promote the show, the rebroadcast, Rob, for Pearl Jam Radio on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. But
you can hear it on
can't
the app. You can hear it anytime on the Sirius XM
There you
app.
go.
There you go.
There you go. All right, so let's go through some of the quick stats of what happened. If you guys don't recall, if you were too young to have listened, I didn't listen at the time because I was a young boy. But here are some of the things that happened. So obviously it was a pirate radio. It was a little over 4 hours, almost 4.5 hours. There were 2 live Pearl Jam sets at either end of the performance. The first one, Spin the Black Circle, Satan's Bed, Corduroy, Not For You, Immortality. Second set was Last Exit, Blood, Tremor Christ, Porch, Indifference. And then you had also a lot of performances from Soundgarden, Mudhoney, Fastbacks,
Mad Season.
Who am I missing?
First Mad Season, I believe.
The first Mad Season performance, right?
I think so.
And there were some phone calls out to Mike Watt, and it wasn't. Brett's saying no. Ooh, spicy! I can't wait to get into it. We had a chat with I believe it was the drummer from the Gits talking about the Home Alive compilation. Mia Zapata, the singer, raped and killed in '93, and they did a thing, a record for her to help support self-defense. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Stone played some Loose Groove stuff, which that's a throwback, and we're going to hear from a Loose Groove artist later on in the show, so hang out for that. And then Dave Grohl demos, the first Dave Grohl Foo Fighters stuff that we didn't know was coming came. So a lot and a lot more. Rob, Brett, there's so much to talk about with you because you were there. But Rob, I want to know where you, as a radio guy, where were you when this happened? And were you listening live?
Yes, right here at my house, listening live on Live 105 out of San Francisco and recording it on my DAT machine.
So you already knew. You knew to be smart because you knew that Brett wasn't going to give you the DAT. So you had to do it yourself.
It was also. I was thinking about it. I'm like, it's early in my Pearl Jam because I started seeing them in '93 and only saw 4 shows, and then '94 I only saw the Bridge School, so they didn't really play. I mean, they played some back east stuff, but they didn't really play that much. Not too many shows in '94, and this is the beginning of '95, so it was like still early on, super early on for me.
That was the station too, right? I mean, nowadays, like,
well, that's like the end.
That
was like the end in Seattle and Live 105 in San Francisco, and I think K-Rock in New York. But the cool thing about this is, the broadcast. I think there were like 5 FM stations played this whole thing in New York.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Time.
Multiple stations in the same city.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't happen. But I want to, Brett. You must have been running around with your chicken with your head cut off. Because tell us about it. Because there was stuff going on in multiple rooms in that house, right?
The house was just a little.
It's like a shack
right off
shack on Aurora, right?
What's that?
Was that on Aurora?
Right. Yeah, it was just north.
Did Eddie own it? Was it his rehearsal space?
He was renting it.
Renting it. Okay.
Yeah, it was sort of his place to go right, to find quiet. Also, place to take buddies late and not disturb his own household. They wanted to hang out late and have fun. Small, had a decent sized backyard, big green belt up the back hill that was all blackberries. But there was a lot next door and it was all fenced in, a good sized lot, belonged to, some kind of business folks or something. And Ed had not had a good relationship with those people. So when it came time, he was like, yeah, there was locks and chains around the gate. We just cut them, opened it up, brought 2 huge satellite dish trucks in. One is your principal, one is your backup. And that's how it was broadcasted. You had a remote recording truck, a green room trailer for guests because the house just wasn't going to hold that many people, and then a trailer for like the DJ stuff. Phone calls and music interim, all that kind of thing, segues. We got set up. Oh, and a couple of generators too, of course, to help run all this. Mm-hmm. And then one of the bedrooms was the actual performance room. We had snakes coming in through the window, into that. And I'm talking tiny. It was about the size of the room I'm sitting in now, so maybe 20 by 20, maybe. So everybody had to kind of compact what they
It'd
were
be loud
doing.
in there.
What's that?
It's gotta be loud in there. A lot of bleed too.
Yeah. I mean, it's live, so everybody basically just sitting there. I don't think there was headphones. I think it was all monitors and that sort of thing. So it was, very, very live performance. Uh, the backyard, they put a bit of a tent over the patio back there, and there was a big, food spread and beverages for everybody.
What kind of food they have?
I have no recollection. I don't think I even got to eat that day. I was running around with my head cut off.
Hold on, were you, who was the point person from the production point of view?
Had to be you.
Well, no, I was audio. So the person that helped pull all this together was really our tour manager, Dick Adams, at the time.
Okay.
Who oversaw all that stuff. And it was Ed's brainchild, so he had an awful lot to do with the thing too. Yeah. And it was business as usual until we were getting close to the first performance, and I'm just sitting in the truck kind of making sure everything's okay. I mean, I was doing all that content through my console, not just the band performances, but the interviews, the phone calls, all that got tied in there. So I had to sit there and just man
routing.
Yeah. Right. Routing, making sure it's all balanced as best as it could be, etc. It was fun, really fun. But a friend of mine, right before we went live, looks at me and goes, "I hear this is going out to 6 million people." And I looked at him and said, "Not
Thanks,
helping." Suddenly I'm, but magical. I mean, lots of great energy, fun performances. Because of the tight room, everyone sort of reimagined the songs a little bit, kind of like a NPR Tiny Desk performance sort of thing, which made it extra magical and really fun.
Who is your like? I feel like Ed mentioned the name Chris once or twice. Who was like your helper? Who was helping coordinate all these different lines in?
For me, my old roommate and good friend, Sonny, who he and I worked together in the studio. He also had a lot of radio background, so he managed the interviews and the sort of DJ trailer. I don't remember a Chris other than Cornell, but
I must have
that doesn't mean there wasn't one. That's a while ago.
Speaking of Soundgarden, though, with No Attention from Down on the Upside, you got so much music that was debuted or heard for the first time. You had Mudhoney, Mike Watt's music from records coming out in the next month or two. Afterwards, Dave Grohl, those early demos. Did this just feel normal to everyone at that point in time, considering Pearl Jam had been playing Vitalogy and Versus tracks before the album releases?
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone was looking forward to it. You had a big group of Seattle friends, really, that everybody got along and were supportive of each other. And that really is what I think drove that thing, right? Not just your individual performances, but just the general community and everybody being there to support each other and have fun. I had brought my black lab to it, and at one point he comes into the recording truck and throws up all over the floor because people have been giving him so many treats and throwing a stick up in the hill for hours.
Poor dog.
Just like dragging himself in. So he was making friends. Yeah, I mean, Susan Silver was there, of course. You had all the different management, crew people that we all knew. I don't remember how many people, but it was a substantial number. A, to just make that thing happen, but B, that we're just there to support both technically and personally.
Do you recall, like, obviously this is Ed's brainchild, as you said. So from the inception point, it happened pretty quick. It was a couple of months, right? From when he was like, "Can we do this?" And I think Kelly was like, "I think we can." And then explain how you guys said, "Okay, we're going to need X, Y, and Z. And where are we going to do this? Okay, we're going to do this here. What else do we need?" Like, do you remember like the pre-production leading up to it?
Sure. Rob, you probably remember the radio guy from Epic. Was it?
Yeah, Harvey Leeds.
Harvey Leeds, yeah. So Harvey was in charge of all that. Not all that, but the label end, the broadcast end. He's who put the relationships together with all the different radio stations that tuned into it. And then from a production point, we had, of course, backline guys like George Webb, et cetera, that been with the band forever, but we're around back then. You know, we had to all sit down and go, okay, for us to make this happen, what do we need? How much in advance we're going to have to, you know, get it in place? How fast can we set it up? We need backups of things because obviously if we're live to 6 million people, we don't want downtime. So we had to have, you know, backup generators, as I mentioned, the backup satellite dish. We only had one remote truck. Thankfully that went well. You know, even I was going to say power to the household, but I'm pretty sure we powered the back line off the generators and stuff as well. But
Oh, wow.
but point being, you know, you probably had a dozen people working on the different facets of it, with Dick being sort of your overseer of the whole thing, making sure it all got done and came together. And then I don't remember if we set up the day before, if we just came in. I think we came in the morning. I really do. I think we just came in early, cut those locks, moved all the trucks and trailers.
Did you know the
into
locks were
place.
already there, or was that a surprise that morning?
What's that?
The locks.
We knew they were there. Yeah.
Okay.
Ed mentioned, I mean, Dick asked, so we have permission to do this? And Ed's like, yeah, about
Oh,
that. Which
I'm
added to the
curious.
pirate radio concept, right?
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
From a logistical standpoint, you got all these bands in there, you know, Pearl Jam, obviously. You got the Fastbacks, Mudhoney, Soundgarden, Mad Season. Brett, were there like some real technical logistics or gymnastics, if you will, that you had to overcome with that many bands playing live in the same space?
Well, it's just like anything, you know, when you do it at festivals, you know, or on stage in the festival, you have everything on rolling risers and things that help expedite the changeovers and stuff. Well, we didn't have any of that, but they did share some backline. So the drum kit was the drum kit. Maybe they swapped out a snare. Same kind of thing with, you know, amps and stuff, although there was a little bit of switching, but it was all more small combos. So a lot of it was kept much smaller and more modular, partly because of the space and partly because of how much time we had to flip it over. You know, I don't remember what our parameters were, but certainly we were like, okay, you know, we're going to have 20 minutes, a half hour in between each of these acts, and we'll fill it with interviews, with taking phone calls, playing music, that kind of thing. But trying to stay as tight as we could because we only had, you know, X number of time, a set time to make it happen.
So was Sonny the one then, you know, let's say, you know, Pearl Jam's done and I forget, was the Fastbacks were next, and they don't want to use one of the amps, so they want to swap out the combo for another combo. Is Sonny running in there and remiking?
No, Sonny was your radio side of things. So again, he oversaw the turntable, the phone calls, interviews with wireless mics, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So that would have been George and backline techs that would have been in charge of making sure that what instrumentation had to be in place was in place.
Were you doing any like tech and sound check in between? Like, did you feel like you had enough time to set up? And
oh God, no. It was a lot of throw and go, as we call it. Yeah.
Oh God,
I mean,
no.
we did sound check everybody, but you know, this is pre-digital console. One of the benefits of a digital console is you can take snapshots,
Save settings. Yeah.
Right. And you just put it under the band and bang, fastbacks are ready to go. So I had to put,
Do you have tape?
What's that?
Do you have tape for the faders? Like, hey, okay, Ed here, Chris here.
No, didn't get,
EQ.
although there were some pencil marks for sure along there. Shared drum inputs because again, the kit was used between each band. And then you just kind of cascade out in sections for the band members from each different act, you know, and then have to keep on top of what I actually laid out and why, and a little bit of, where'd that go?
Here's a question from friend of the show, Stip, one of the overlords, if I may, of Red Mosquito forums over at Skyscrape, and a wonderful author of this book right here. Free plug, Stip. I am no guy, Pearl Jam song by song. Do you give your copy, Rob?
oh, there it is.
Rob, we got to get you a copy.
A
Stip,
great resource for me.
Stip, send Brett a copy. Stip has this question. I think it's for both, really for both of you, but Brett, when you are in the room for moments like this, is there a sense that you are making history, or are you just trying to get through the day?
I understood that this was a unique thing, though versions of it had happened over the years. This was certainly the first of the the Seattle's community that had ever happened, and more with modern production facets as well, compared to, say, the 60s or 70s when some of this kind of thing used to go on. So, you know, bringing all these different acts that were becoming, you know, huge and exciting around the world, you certainly understand that that's a special moment. But no, it's just tuck your chin and try to focus and stay on top of it.
Yeah.
I just love how the whole broadcast has the vibe of how loose the entire thing is, and you can tell that everyone's having fun, and there's like,
No pressure.
It feels like one of those check your egos at the door, but that never had to even be said, because it's just like everyone's friends, and it just comes across through the entire thing. And you know, Ed's DJing and talking is like so laid back from that time, and I just love the whole thing.
Do you think there's a what has that become now? As a radio guy, you've been in radio for a while now. Has that, obviously it's gotten way more shiny and produced and coordinated. Radio has. Is there a space for something like this now? Or is it what we're doing?
I'm sure you can make this happen with some 19-year-olds out there. I think it's just it's a time capsule, basically. It's how everyone was at the time, and you can tell they're all friends, and that vibe just comes out in the music and the interviews and the talking and the stuff they're playing, the way it's the way it sounds, the way the whole thing came off. It had no slickness to it whatsoever, you know.
There's a Seattle rock station that does Live Day each year, KSW, and the whole thing is during their morning talk show and their afternoon talk show. They've been doing it at the casino out near me in Snoqualmie. A buddy of mine puts all the musicians together, so all the music is played live. All the music beds under the advertising is played live.
Wow.
You know, it's the old timey, you know, DJ doing your ads, and the guy sitting there visiting, and any of the sound effects or any of that kind of thing is all planned out and done live for a couple hour stretches in the morning and in the afternoon. This has been going on for at least a half a dozen years or so, 5 or 6 years. It's really cool. So that reminds me a lot of what this was, right? Just sort of, you know, are there issues as it flows? Sure, it's live, but it's the way you react to that makes it special. One of my favorite moments in that was Ed used to have an apartment, I think on Queen Anne in Seattle, and that was his, you know, space to go to, similar to this house. He'd go there, he'd bring an acoustic guitar, he'd sit, he'd write, he'd contemplate, and he had a neighbor that kept complaining about the noise, an acoustic guitar and him singing, right? Just kept complaining, kept bitching, complained to management. He finally ended his lease, but there was still some time in it. He had just abandoned the building, but he had left a phone set up there, and he gave that phone number out on the air during that broadcast so that people could make it ring 24/7.
Oh my God. Because that was he was teasing, we'll take calls. And at the very, very, very end, he gives the phone number away. That's what it was?
Yeah. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Eddie, you little trollster, you. That's hilarious.
Was anyone going around like a camcorder, just picking up as much as you could?
I don't remember, but my guess is Kevin shows.
Kevin must have been. That was my question, because
this is a documentary in the making.
Is the video that's out from the Monkey Ranch one from '98? Because there's video out of one.
I mean, PJ20 featured a little bit of camcorder stuff, and there's some on YouTube.
Yeah, that's a lot of that's Kevin. Kevin, I mean, he'd been archiving, documenting since early days, but he had a lot of Love Bone, a lot of early Alice, all sorts of cool stuff.
One day we're going to convince him to come
on.
The
later ones, they actually had camera crews there. They were smart enough to do that, but this did not have that component.
Well, speaking of camera crews, I want to take a little pause here and toss to a live performance, as you do. This is friends of ours from Rio de Janeiro, Black Circle, and they're playing a song that you guys know very well. Wow.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
It sure was.
The strings was wow.
See, this ticks a couple of boxes, guys. Number one, we love our friends in Black Circle, and they are amazing, as you can tell. And number two, clearly we need a symphonic. We need an S&M for PreProduction. We need a PJ&M performance, or PJ&S performance.
It definitely makes you think. Like, yeah, that's definitely on. That's a box to check someday.
We got
We'll
Mad
get it,
Season
Brett?
before we got Pearls.
That's true. Oh my God. With Chris.
I have to. Beautiful, Lenny. Thank you. All you guys in the band. What a fantastic performance of that classic number that was. Speaking of live performances, kind of curious. What was each of your favorite performances from the Self Pollution Radio broadcast?
Soundgarden worked up a different version of, and I don't even remember what song.
Fell on Black Days.
Yeah. And it was Chris's original intent, I think, is how he introduced it before, the version he brought into the band. Absolutely cool, just haunting. That was a moment. It was fun to watch. You're right that Mad Season was pretty new, but they actually had done a couple of shows, like at the Crocodile, which is sort of how they became a band. They just decided to do this. They had a couple of song ideas, but most of it they just made up on the spot in front of an audience. That's where the first maybe half a dozen song ideas came from. But they were pretty dang new, and it was fun to watch that energy. Those guys just sort of pull it together and make it work,
It sounds like they've been practicing for a while. And did anybody really know that this was going to happen? That this band was going to be a band outside of you guys, basically?
No, I think it was, we went in, it's sort of the Pearl Jam trajectory. All those guys, you go in, start doing demos, and suddenly it's like, hey, there's some magic here. I guess these demos are going to become a record.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it went down. So
I mean, you knew because you did the record, but Rob, what about you? What was your favorite live performance from the whole?
Probably the Immortality, because I had just seen that for the first time at the Bridge School, in October before it, and I just will never forget walking out of Bridge School singing that, just remembering parts of that song, and all this other stuff was totally new to me. Like I didn't know nothing about Soundgarden or basically any of the other bands. And Mad Season, I just remember when I got the record, fell so in love with it because I was like, holy shit, this is like so psychedelic. I was like, I thought that was like just Seattle on acid. And again, and another thing,
Seattle acid party.
Yes, so that's another one of my favorites, because I got turned on to Zeke because of Eddie at my first Seattle show on December 7th of 93. At that show, he says, what are y'all doing after the show? I'm going to see Zeke at the Vogue. You all should come. So I'm there my first night in town. I'm like, of course I'm going. So I go, and within 5 minutes he walks in, and I meet him and I thank him, and he, just grabs my hand, stares me, and he goes, no, man, thank you. And then I saw Zeke. And how could you not love a song called West Seattle Acid Party? So that and Immortality. Okay, and I'm sure when I heard Mad Season on this thing, I had no idea what I was hearing.
I'm trying to remember. I listened to this back like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I don't remember if he said this. But Brett, do you recall if Ed introduced them as, this is Mad Season, this is a new project between these guys, or did he just say, here's a new band, or here's a band?
I don't think he made a big deal out of it. I think he just introduced Mad Season.
Well, this printout has a 27-second introduction.
Oh, does it?
That's what it says here.
Okay.
Great. Disc 2, track 16. Eddie introduces Mad Season, 27 seconds.
Okay.
He could say Mad Season for 3, and there's 24 seconds.
Ramble for air. 24.
Yeah. No, just air. There's air for 24 seconds.
By the way, before we
have
get
to listen to it.
The next question here, Brett, did Ed have a good mastery of like what he was supposed to press to make things happen, or is he like, I don't know?
He didn't have to. There's people that are doing it.
Okay, because it sounded like he was like making things happen. He was pushing buttons, but that's not what happened.
No, there were folks that are taking care of everything for him.
Was there
He
a
had it
favorite
up on his
moment
plate, right? I mean, just trying to be engaging to an audience.
I know.
Yeah.
aside from the live stuff? Was there like a favorite moment that stands out to you, to either of you, really? That when you reflect back, it's like, wow, that was just a great moment.
Mike Watt phone call.
That was cool.
It was.
Hi, hey, this is Watt. They always refer to themselves by the last name. Hey, it's Watt. Okay.
That was
he
fun.
like was he well known in the scene back then? Because I feel like a lot of people didn't recognize
Well,
who Mike Watt was until that tour
Well,
came
that's
out.
He was in the-
Firehose. So.
a Firehose or a minute, and they toured with
Minutemen,
Minutemen,
right?
I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember it. And
Those
then
are small bands.
when did that tour happen with Ed and Grohl and
was like
Watt, and they were in the
May.
van? Because I remember that came to Slim's
Right?
in San Francisco, and
It was right before Pearl Jam went out. So April.
okay. I'm
Right?
not sure.
Similar
between
time
the-
frame, right?
Yeah, it was in that
Mid
94,
90s.
95 or something like
Yeah.
that.
And didn't he stopped at some point because people started showing up only for him, and it was like I want to put the spotlight back on Mike kind of thing. Well, 3.5 hours into the broadcast, we heard this.
All right, hey, the guys are playing without me in the room, so that song was dedicated to the person who's our official new drummer, and it's Jack Irons. That one goes out to him, and there's some noise going on.
Like, just casually, 3.5 hours into the broadcast. Oh, by the way, officially, Jack Irons is the guy. Now, Brett, I have to imagine that you knew beforehand, right?
Yeah.
How long before did you know?
Well, I was involved with before Stone had his studio. He had a recording setup, a home studio in his house in Seattle, and we used that facility to kind of test drive a bunch of drummers. And so probably 5 or 6 different drummers over a handful of days came in and just jammed with the band and see what it felt like and how they got along. And of course, Jack had history there helping Ed connect with the band.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't remember if we had this. Jack's first show was.
Well, he played with them at the Bridge in
Mhm.
October '94. I think
think-
those were his first.
Yeah, but I think the first one was in D.C., Constitution
Oh,
Hall.
Well, first electric show,
Electric. Yeah.
Yeah.
but that previous November at Bridge School, I think was the first live
Bridge in
performance
October,
general.
Okay.
Yeah.
October.
Yeah.
So that means these rehearsals or these tryouts, whatever you want to call them, were happening obviously just before that,
Yeah.
right? Or is this back in the summer?
Probably in the summer.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
you recall, or are you at liberty to say who else was in the room?
I probably shouldn't speak to that.
Okay.
But yes, I
Fair enough, I had to
remember.
ask. Fair enough. Fair enough. Lest I be yelled at by people. Why didn't you ask Brett who's?
No. And I don't even know if that's a sensitive topic or not, but I'll let the band answer that. at their
Fair
will.
enough. All right, Rob, get the band on the show.
It's 30 years later. No one can remember.
Probably that.
It's been lost in the ethos. Fair enough. Brett, there was a couple of phone calls, as we mentioned, that went out. He was always teasing, we're going to take phone calls. They never did. But a couple went out. One to from the Frogs, Dennis Flemion. I mentioned Mike Watt. And like, how did you guys route the phone calls? Like, who was hitting the buttons for Ed? How did that, was it difficult to route that and then keep your eyes on the sound checking in the other room?
Well, there was no more sound checking. Once we
Or
that
not
was
sound checking,
all-
but like,
yeah.
okay,
So
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, there was no line checking. There was nothing because my console was being used for the whole production.
okay. So once you're
Right.
live, you're
So
just,
once we were set, and hopefully it worked, and it did. My Sonny, last name Felberg, he was the guy that ran that trailer, so he took the phone calls. Had the mic ready for Ed, whether he wanted wireless or not to wander around. I mean, Sonny was on top of all that stuff, including music that was being played, etc. The phone calls, they make an interface that you plug a phone into, and you can plug, the control room into that so that you can chat back and forth with people. And all they do is just send a feed from that whole thing. I had a stereo feed out of there into my console.
Now, when you're listening to this, it sounds like Ed's just doing it all himself. Was that conscious? Like, was that intentional? Like, did he want it to come across that way as part of the, the production, if you will? Or
that wasn't discussed, but part of our job is to be transparent in the background, right? It's not about the technology. It's not about our workings. It's about the show and the presentation.
Yeah.
It's our job to try to stay out of the way.
I mean, it feels like the only thing planned was maybe the running order of the bands. Like that's probably the only thing, and the rest of it just feels like it just happens.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of a sketch with regards to when music was going to be played, when they were going to take phone calls, things like that. But certainly there was some audibles called during the show as well.
Do you remember why?
Just because maybe Ed wanted to, let's go take, I want a phone call now. Let's go take a phone call, or, I mean, it's whatever he was feeling or whatever.
Was it him and Dick that kind of organized the rundown of the show?
Yes.
Was there anybody that you know of that was going to come and perform but couldn't?
No. Those were the bands that were invited were there.
That's 100% batting average is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier the chat with the chat about the Home Alive compilation. And that was one of the heavier moments. And there's even like a phone call or a voicemail from I'm blanking on her name. Kind of actually getting mad at Mike Watt about some stuff. But Ed goes on at the end. He reads like this whole thing about women's rights and abortion, and obviously they're a week out from the Constitution Hall shows, which we're going to talk about next week, which is actually Tuesday in 2 days, as this is live. Join us for that. And this is when we still had Roe v. Wade. And I think Ed's been very vocal about this on this past tour, this Dark Matter tour. Do you guys have any sense? Because I mean, both of you know Ed to a degree because you've been around him for so long.
I don't.
You don't know Ed, Rob?
No.
I thought you did.
I mean, I know him.
Well, then you're gonna give me the pro fans perspective on this. Then you've got a 30-year-old Ed. He's saying these things, and now you've got 60-year-old Ed. He's saying these things. How do you think 60-year-old Ed would respond or would think about himself doing this event 30 years prior, especially with the heaviness of it?
The only thing I could say is it's funny because when we started the channel on, when I started the one on the band's website, and then the serious one came along, everyone's thinking like, oh, yeah, he's gonna DJ once a week or whatever. It's like, oh, he did, and I'm like, it's not 1995. It's like he's not in the van, doing, it's just it's a different world. It's a different time. People are different. People grow, and that's not how it is. It's like, hey, it's got an open door if he ever wants to, but
But he was big into the pirate radio concept.
Yeah.
That's where the van came from.
I know. I remember like standing outside that van at Spartan Stadium after the show in San Jose.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff said at the time that he can't wait to do it again, and I think 98 there's something. But do they have the time to even pursue anything similar to that now? Would they even want to? Is it possible?
Well, that's the thing. I think they do what they want.
Yeah, it's possible. Doesn't mean.
Yeah,
I think it's a thing. He explored and got bored and moved on.
Yeah.
All right, let's.
I think Jeff said in Pearl Jam 20, he said we'd like to do. It'd be nice to do something like that again, didn't he?
Yeah, he's. I got the quote right here. Actually, where did it go? I think it had to do with Ed not being from Seattle, but then developing strong friendships with these great bands. We need to do that again. What do you think, Brett? I mean, to Jeff's point, him coming up there being kind of this outsider, but then being accepted by everybody, could it have happened in a different place? Was it necessary for Ed to feel comfortable to make one of these things up because of the community that music had up there?
The community absolutely had a lot to do with it. He was welcomed, probably first and foremost by Chris Cornell. Chris took him under his wing, and they became fast friends. And that was huge to him, feeling like he belonged. and then being included on the Temple of the Dog record was really huge for him. I think at PJ20, Stone mentions that, you're listening down to that record and you get to Hunger Strike and he's like, hey, our guy can sing pretty good too. So there, and then how well he was accepted and appreciated, and that none of that was lost on him. He had moved from his home, jumped into a place where he knew practically nobody, and lived on a mattress in the floor of a nasty rehearsal space for a long time, and he came a long way.
Yeah, he definitely has. And I think that he's advanced the narrative and the conversation a long way too. It struck me just revisiting this broadcast, these opening conversations that he's having with himself and with the listener. And he's saying things like, we've seen potential, I'm quoting him here, we've seen potentially dangerous attitudes embraced and blatant mistruths treated like gospel. And this is far from an equal time. And it was just so prescient because I'm listening to this thinking, this is 94, 95. It might as well be 2025 because not much has changed.
Well, you bring up the abortion stance and think back to Unplugged, and he wrote pro-choice, right? That's...
And we've already recorded it, transparency. But on Tuesday, the next episode that comes out, we're talking with Kathy Davis from Footsteps Fanzine and 2 Feet Thick about those Constitution Hall shows just a week later from this broadcast, and part of that conversation has to do with Ed and the band tackling this issue, and we got a taste of it at the end of the broadcast. So that's why I said, if knowing Ed from a fan perspective, but even a closer perspective as you have, Brett, and thinking like, how would Ed react to the state of affairs and where he was mentally then, and if he could tell himself, if he could tell 30-year-old self, if I could speak correctly, something about the future. Like, I just wonder what 30-year-old Ed would think of his older self telling. I mean, you can't do that. You can't have a time machine, but
I gotta believe with
nothing's changed.
Ed views the world and his sensitivity towards it all, his older self would be wise enough not to let his younger self know that it's still going to shit.
That's a good point.
Well,
I'd like to think I was wise enough. I wouldn't be, but I'd like to think so.
I wouldn't be. That's why I was curious.
Screw it, I'm going to go surf. To hell with this.
A little quick aside, but the Constitutional Hall show that came up was the first, as we mentioned, Jack's show, but they ended up doing their Neil Young played that with them with Crazy Horse, and they ended up doing a couple of new Neil songs as encore, and that is where Mirrorball came from.
Yeah,
right.
That time playing together, Neil was so blown away by the vibe, the energy, that he asked them to make that record.
I think I read somewhere that he didn't bring a roadie. He just came up with a guitar and an amp and said, "All right, I got a handful of ideas. Let's knock out these things and jam them out." Right?
He wanted it to be very Pearl Jam centric, meaning use all of Pearl Jam's crew, people, producer, etc. And that's exactly what happened. So,
a great allusion to the episode that I hope we'll have in about 6 months' time, Brett.
Wait,
talking about 30th anniversary.
Brett, were you doing front of house on the whole Mirrorball tour in Europe?
Both Tim and I did. We shared that. So nice. Neil's guy and I were on the console.
Mulligan, yeah.
I engineered that record as well. So,
great. Do you recall, Brett, the exact release date? Because there's multiple ones online.
Of Mirrorball?
Mirrorball?
Good God, no.
Someone in there asked, because I was looking it up, we have so many 30th anniversaries this year, and I'm going down my notes. I'm like, all right, we got this. And then I'm looking at Mirrorball. I'm like, I thought it was June 27th, but then June 23rd pops up, August 7th pops up, and I'm like, what's the story? Rob, do you remember?
I'll look into that, because we're going to do something on that, and we hope to be correct.
We strive to be accurate. All right, I want to toss one more used to be live performance from friends of the show, Loose Groove artist James and the Cold Gun. This is them from the Crocodile in Seattle just a couple of weeks ago. Check it out. right, so that was James and Nicole Gunn. Guessing Games comes out on Tuesday. You can scan that bad boy to pre-save the song. They've got a new album coming in the spring, and they're on tour in the eastern part of the U.S. starting end of the week, January 17th, I want to say, in Florida. Check them out with Highway Suspect. They're on the road this week in the U.S. They were just in the U.S., as evidenced by that track at the Crocodile. It was packed. It was sold out. They played with Thunder Pussy. Mike McCready came out, played with them. How cool is that?
That bass lick cuts.
Gabby is a boss. By the way, when they were here with Thunder Pussy at the Troubadour in West Hollywood, I said hi to the guys, and they signed this for me. Little signed vinyl from the boys and Gabby. How cool! Very cool band. So Loose Groove, artist, Stone, they're awesome, and yeah.
Okay, Pearl Jam's website for Mirrorball says June 27th.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I've got just one.
If they don't know, we don't know.
If they don't know, we don't know. Well, we don't know a lot. So here's why I need to ask this question. It is my belief, and I believe this concretely, that the legacy of this show has not been reduced to this conversation on our podcast. So I have to ask the two of you, what is the legacy of Self-Pollution Radio?
I'd say that it was really a snapshot in time of where the community was and how tight-knit it was, supportive of each other it was. And that, I think, comes, as Rob mentioned, and you guys have mentioned, it comes across in the broadcast itself. You can tell that people were having fun, that they were enjoying each other's company, that, they're in a safe space to be creative and have fun with this thing. And I think that's it. It's just a really beautiful snapshot in time.
And the only thing I can add to that is that what really comes across is, even though they had blown big, they were humongous. 3 albums were already was Vitology was already out, right? Yeah, 3 albums were already out. They're massive, and then something like this happens, and they don't come across as massive at all. In attitude, in style, in the whole vibe of it. There's zero pretension in this broadcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember riding in the van with the band. We're driving in through Texas late night. I might have been driving, but I was at least up in the front of the van. And I hear the guys talking about what their expectations for that first record would be. And I remember Stone saying, I wouldn't want it to go bigger than Gold. Gold would mean that we get a chance to make a second record. So we need that kind of success, but I wouldn't want to see it blow way up and have to deal with all the aftermath of what that is. And success with the negatives as well. Yeah.
Tough luck there, buddy.
But that's the mindset of those guys, right?
Brett, my only other question for you about this whole event, broadcast, everything was, I'm thinking it probably started 8 or 9 o'clock West Coast time, and we'd have the 3.5, almost 4 hours, I guess, and it had to have. People probably didn't leave there till 5 a.m. Rob, I just have the vibe like when the radio went off, it didn't stop.
No, well, there's after party too, right? I imagine there's an after party, and then you got to come back. Like,
I just feel like the whole
up, or like
those of us.
I don't even think you have to mention after party, because the whole thing was just one big giant party.
No, they definitely continued to have fun. Everyone,
yeah.
But we had to set to tearing everything down right away too. We were on a chunk of land we weren't supposed to be, so we had to get that cleaned up and get out of there.
And no cops ever showed up, right?
No.
That's a win.
Yeah.
Lenny wants to know.
I think that little element of danger added just some excitement there too. So,
did you guys ever find out whatever happened to that house? Do people living there now know what it represents? I mean, I can't imagine that you would know, but did any word ever come down? No.
There was a little crappy motel that had an Asian name to it. I don't remember what that was, but just a couple blocks further up is where that was, right off of 99. I mean, literally, the Aurora was its front yard. So
it became a brothel, and now it's Microsoft. No,
or the reverse.
One of the many campuses.
Oh my god. Cool, man. This has been really fun, and I'm sure I'll think of more to ask you later on, like a doofus. But I appreciate both of you being here. I think we guys have like a really cool perspective from both of your expertise. Obviously, Brett, you probably have more stories to tell us that we'll learn at some other point. That we'll remember. Oh yeah, that one story.
But he'd have to kill you.
That's fine. I'll die happy. That's okay.
I have no problem to storytelling.
Well, like I said before, 95, and you'll hear this on Tuesday, our episode with Kathy, but I feel like 1995 is the most fascinating year in the band's history. There's so much dynamic and the context.
It's a crazy year, man. We're lucky they survived it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's why we know
it could have blown up. It almost
we know they succeed. This is the Empire Strikes Back year, where it's like, are they gonna come out winners? We don't know. It's Rocky. Who knows?
Yeah, I was just trying to remember if that was when the Ticketmaster battle happened and everything. It was, yeah.
So,
that was the year.
And that resulted in trying to circumnavigate that world and made production interesting. And
this is how one gets to Taiwan. So
yeah. You've got Mirrorball Mercantball 30th anniversary, the Asia and Australian tours, the first time in New Zealand. You got the 2 Red Rocks shows in June. You got Soldier Field. You got Mad Season. You got the Mike Watt record, Constitution Halls, which we'll talk about next week.
Nightmare in
piss-
Golden Gate Park.
Oh, I was getting there, baby. Nightmare at Golden Gate Park. That damn tuna sandwich. Ah. And the Piss Bottle Men shows just a couple weeks after the Constitution Hall shows, and more. So there's a lot to talk about. And not to mention, by the way, Binaural turns 25 on May 16th.
Jeez.
What is happening? Why is time?
I think we're getting old.
Time is a
Well,
son of a
some of
bitch,
us.
guys. Well, thank you both for being here. I want to remind everybody, if I can find my full screens, I want to remind everybody that next week, like I said, we're talking with Kathy Davis, talking Voters for Choice shows, both shows. She was at both shows. How she got in to both of those shows
that is
a story.
It's a good
It's a
story.
story unto itself. But a lot of good conversation about Jack and the context around those shows. So check that out on Tuesday, so 48 hours from now, really, if you're watching live. And again, not to steer it too hard left into reality, but things are not super great out here in Southern California. So if you are interested in helping out the many displaced Angelinos, these are 3 great places to send your money. And the links are all below in the description of this YouTube video. And like I said before, if you want to double dip your donation, go ahead and scan this QR code. It is the way for you to donate to our monthly fundraiser, which is Our Rescue, and they fight sex trafficking and human trafficking, child exploitation, all that stuff. And the greatest donation gets a 90 original shirt and patch, which you've seen all of our favorite musicians wear back in the day. So do yourself a 2-for-1 and donate there as well. I'm asking a lot of you, but I feel like I've seen a lot of good happening down here. Apparently, the Sherman Oaks Fire Department told a neighbor of mine that they are good on food and water. So that's not a sign of people helping people. And they're over at the Rose Bowl. They had an impromptu, completely like people created, not flea market, but like a coming together of like, hey, we'll bring a truckload of this, you bring truckloads of that. People showed up with hot dog carts. Like, there's light in the darkness, guys.
Yeah.
Well, seeing people, there's a link to a gentleman who's got a big horse trailer and he's rescuing horses 10 at a time for people. I saw somebody had a abandoned commercial building down there that wasn't touched, and they're leaving it open for people's pets to go if they have no place to take them. Just there's a lot of amazing things going on.
Yeah.
People stepping up.
So that's the reality of right
Triumph
now.
of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So we're getting through this, and thanks for you guys out there sticking around, waiting a few extra
Very
days
much.
for us to
Thank
do
you,
this.
gentlemen.
And again, thank you to Rob from Pearl Jam Radio, Channel 22. Deuces.
Listen to Self Pollution Radio on the Sirius XM app.
Anytime. I hear it's a great
Till it's
app.
gone.
Until
It's there till it's gone.
Brett Eliason, the man who has stories and knowledge for days. We pick his brain as often as we're allowed to. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Nice to do it now before it's all gone.
Enough with that talk, Brett.
Yeah, don't no. We've got Mad Season coming up. We've got Mirror Ball coming up. We got Merkin Ball coming at the end of the year. So, there's more to
Neil keeps threatening to put out that movie.
Oh yeah. And the remastered vinyl edition, right?
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
There was a recorded show in Ireland, I think, from that Mirrorball tour too.
Yeah, I think he's got the film of it, and
Yeah.
he's talking. He's been saying the last couple of years, we're working on it. We're working on
Sitting
it.
in the vault. This just reminds me. We recorded. They played at a club on Capitol Hill in Seattle called Moe's, and
Oh yeah, I remember
yeah,
that.
and we captured that on multi-track. So that would be a
That's-
fun thing to pull
You're
up.
talking about
Boy,
Neil
that'd
and the
be a
boys
good-
or Pearl Jam?
It was Neil
Vault-
with the band
Vault
right
release.
after they finished Mirrorball.
Yeah,
You should just let Brett into the vault. Just cherry pick some stuff and do your magic.
Hey,
They did that once.
well, hey, I will tell you, Brett, that I finally was able to get into the vault myself a couple months ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was scary because of the whole lack of oxygen, fire prevention system they have in there.
Yeah.
You don't want to stay too long. It's I can't get locked in here.
I could.
But it reminded us that this is all here. This is all here. And maybe they could do a record store day of like all the performances from Self Evolution Radio remastered on vinyl. I don't know. That wouldn't be a good idea or anything.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. The whole setup back there is incredible.
Yeah, very much so. You guys should go out there.
Should go to the tape vault.
Yeah, just go. Sorry. Anywho, thank you everybody out there for watching. If you're listening on audio on demand, old school style at some point, Paul, what should they do?
Well, they should rate, review, and subscribe on their preferred podcast platform of choice. Feed that algorithm before it sticks us in a vault. That's what they should do.
Ooh, good one. I'm always looking for new ones. New what we call those? Promotion, market? No, I don't know what we call it. Anyways, losing my mind here. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe button and the bell for notifications and all that shit, because that helps. And again, that's it. We appreciate y'all for coming out, and we will see you very soon. Where's my end page? There it is.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.